At 0542 local time, a Russian armored column consisting of 22 heavy vehicles was churning through deep mud in eastern Ukraine, trusting their survival entirely to a low-pressure weather system. A torrential downpour had grounded every commercial and military surveillance drone in the sector, creating a temporary roof of impenetrable gray water over the convoy. The Russian commander assumed the heavy rain was a shield, a tactical cloak that allowed his forces to advance undetected across open terrain that would normally be an absolute death trap. But 6 kilometers away, hidden in the ruins of a shattered tree line, 3 Ukrainian drone teams were not looking at the sky. They were looking at a localized Doppler radar feed downloaded minutes earlier via an encrypted satellite uplink. The weather was not a shield. It was a mathematical equation, and the Ukrainians had already solved it. The radar showed a narrow 12-minute clearing in the storm cell approaching the convoy's exact geographical coordinates. The Russian armor was strung out in a single-file formation along a raised dirt road, moving at barely 15 kilometers per hour due to the mud. It was the worst possible geometric configuration for a sudden ambush, turning a coordinated fighting force into a slow-moving conveyor belt of targets. The Ukrainian operators simply had to wait for the storm cell to break, transforming the Russians' chosen sanctuary into an inescapable 22-vehicle kill zone. Before we continue, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. When the heavy precipitation suddenly tapered off to a light mist, the sky above the convoy did not clear completely, but the ceiling lifted just enough. That subtle shift in barometric pressure and atmospheric visibility was the only authorization the Ukrainian teams needed. Within 45 seconds, 18 first-person view drones, heavily modified commercial quadcopters carrying high-explosive anti-tank warheads, screamed off makeshift launch pads hidden in the brush. To prevent mid-air collisions in the still degraded visibility, the drone operators executed a strictly pre-planned airspace coordination protocol. Group Alpha took the ceiling at 200 meters, Group Bravo took the middle tier at 150 meters, and Group Charlie skimmed the treetops at barely 30 meters above the ground. Think of it as a tightly controlled, 3-story invisible highway where everyone is traveling at 120 kilometers per hour without headlights. This strict altitude separation ensured the swarm could converge on the stretched-out armored column simultaneously without their radio frequencies or physical airframes ever crossing paths. The drones were cheap, built from off-the-shelf components costing roughly $500 each. But they were carrying enough concentrated kinetic energy to completely gut a multi-million-dollar main battle tank if they struck the right structural vulnerability. However, the exact moment the Ukrainian drones powered up their transmitters and flooded the airspace with analog video feeds and control link signals, the Russian electronic warfare screen illuminated. A Lear-2 electronic warfare vehicle embedded securely in the center of the armored column instantly detected the sudden massive spike in radio frequency emissions. The Russian defense system did not need to physically see the incoming drones. It just needed to listen to the digital noise they broadcasted. By analyzing the microscopic time difference of arrival of the control signals hitting multiple antennas, the Lear-2 onboard computers instantly triangulated the exact geographical coordinates of the Ukrainian operators hidden in the tree line 6 kilometers away. The electronic warfare officers immediately passed those precise coordinates to a rear echelon artillery battery and an orbiting Orlan 30 reconnaissance drone circling high above the storm layer. The Orlan 30, equipped with a specialized laser designator, began to paint the Ukrainian launch positions with an invisible infrared beam, guiding incoming precision artillery shells. The Ukrainian operators now had heavily armed drones in the air, but the invisible tether connecting their controllers to those drones had just painted a giant, glowing target directly on their own backs. The battlefield geometry violently compressed into a matter of mere seconds. The Russian artillery battery fired its first volley of guided munitions, meaning high-explosive shells were already arcing through the sky toward the Ukrainian launch sites, while the drone swarm was still 2 kilometers away from the armored column. The Ukrainian teams were instantly forced into a high-stakes sequence of control handoffs, a highly specialized relay tactic designed specifically to counter Russian signal triangulation. The primary operators, who had just been geolocated, dropped their control transmitters and started sprinting away from their firing points to designated fallback trenches. At that exact moment, secondary operators positioned hundreds of meters away, powered on their own transmitters, precisely synced to the exact same frequency hopping algorithm, and caught the drones mid-flight. For a terrifying 3 to 4 seconds during this digital baton pass, The drones flew completely unguided, functioning as ballistic projectiles entirely at the mercy of wind and gravity. If the secondary operators failed to reacquire the signal, the entire 18-drone swarm would crash uselessly into the mud. But the digital handoff held. The video feeds flickered violently and then stabilized on the new screens just as a barrage of Russian artillery shells obliterated the primary launch sites, turning the empty tree line into a churning crater of fire and shattered wood. With their lives narrowly preserved by sheer speed and decentralized mobility, the Ukrainian operators pushed their drones into terminal attack dives. The environmental constraints were rapidly tightening against them. The brief break in the weather was already closing, and the aggressive evasive maneuvering had drained the cheap commercial batteries down to critical levels. They had less than 3 minutes of usable flight time remaining before the airframes became dead weight. Below them, the Russian column realized they were under attack. Defensive fire erupted from heavy machine guns, and the specialized BMPT Terminator vehicles, heavily armored platforms designed specifically to protect tanks by unleashing a wall of 30mm autocannon fire into the sky. The Terminators deployed advanced targeting algorithms intended to automatically track and destroy incoming aerial threats. However, the Ukrainian forces exploited a fundamental mathematical flaw in the Russian computer architecture. The targeting software was designed to track 1 or 2 complex high-value targets, not 18 identical, erratic, low-thermal signature quadcopters arriving simultaneously from 3 completely different altitudes. The software essentially suffered a digital panic attack, struggling with swarm saturation as it rapidly cycled between identical targets without committing to a firing solution long enough to destroy any of them. While the Russian targeting systems locked into a spiral of computational indecision, the drones slammed into the convoy with devastating precision. The operators did not aim for the thick composite armor on the front of the vehicles, which was designed to stop conventional anti-tank missiles. Instead, they steered the cheap commercial quadcopters into the precise mechanical vulnerabilities of the heavy armor. They targeted the thin metal grills over the engine compartments, the exposed gaps between the improvised slat armor, and the sensitive turret rings where the heavy turret meets the chassis. It was the kinetic equivalent of a surgeon using a scalpel to sever an artery instead of using a sledgehammer against a ribcage. When a $500 piece of plastic and wire carrying a shaped charge impacts the rear engine deck of a multi-million-dollar tank, the resulting explosion drives a jet of superheated copper straight through the engine block, instantly igniting the fuel lines and detonating the internal ammunition carousel. The entire armored column ground to a catastrophic halt as the lead and trailing vehicles were immobilized simultaneously, trapping the rest of the convoy on the narrow dirt road. Russian crews, realizing their metal fortresses had just become stationary targets, began frantically abandoning their vehicles and sprinting into the mud, trading the illusion of armored protection for the desperate hope of surviving on foot. The initial assault had trapped the column, but a disabled main battle tank is still a heavily armored pillbox, capable of firing its main gun or being recovered later. The Ukrainian doctrine dictated that mobility kills were not sufficient. A complete structural annihilation was required. As the remaining drones in the first wave descended, they were not aimed at the fleeing crew members. They were directed to plunge straight into the open hatches left behind by the panicking Russian soldiers. When a 2-kilogram shaped charge detonates inside the sealed crew compartment of a T-72 tank, the overpressure and thermal spike instantly ignite the autoloader magazine stored directly beneath the turret. The resulting sympathetic detonation of up to 40 high-explosive shells turns the 45-ton vehicle into a massive steel volcano, launching the 12-ton turret tens of meters into the air. This follow-up tactic ensured that no recovery vehicle would ever tow these assets back to a repair depot. The vehicles were permanently erased from the Russian order of battle, transformed into burning monuments of twisted metal along the muddy road. The remaining operators guided their payloads with cold, mechanical precision, ignoring the heavy tracer fire that still snapped through the air, prioritizing the total destruction of the heaviest armor. The most critical target in the entire convoy, however, was not the heavy armor. It was the Lear-2 electronic warfare vehicle, the very same system that had nearly killed the Ukrainian operators minutes earlier. The Lear-2 was a high-value asset, a sophisticated mobile command center designed to dominate the electromagnetic spectrum. It was currently broadcasting a massive dome of interference, desperately trying to jam the control signals of the second wave of drones now approaching. But the Russian countermeasures were built on an outdated assumption of static frequencies. The Ukrainian operators were utilizing advanced frequency-hopping algorithms that shifted their control channels hundreds of times per second across a wide spectrum. The Lear-2 was essentially trying to block a flood by plugging individual holes in a dam while the water simply flowed around it. A lone quadcopter, piloted by a secondary team operator lying prone in a waterlogged trench, slipped through a microsecond gap in the jamming field. It bypassed the heavy tanks entirely and accelerated directly toward the forest of antennas protruding from the roof of the Lear-2. The drone impacted the primary sensor array, instantly blinding the entire Russian column and severing their digital connection to the artillery batteries supporting them. This brutal engagement, lasting less than 8 minutes, perfectly encapsulated the ruthless new economics of asymmetric warfare. The Russian Federation had committed tens of millions of dollars in heavy armor, advanced electronic warfare suites, and guided artillery to this single muddy road. In contrast, the Ukrainian forces had utilized less than $25,000 worth of commercial drone components, plastic zip ties, and scavenged anti-tank munitions. It was a complete inversion of traditional military mathematics, where the cost of destroying a target was historically proportional to the target's value. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian drone teams were already moving. They practiced extreme mobility, operating with a physical footprint so small it was practically invisible. The moment their screens went to static after the final detonations, they packed their portable controllers into waterproof bags, mounted electric dirt bikes hidden nearby, and vanished into the dense forest. Miles away, the Russian centralized artillery batteries, bound by rigid doctrinal response loops, finally received the authorization to fire their secondary barrages. They rained hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of high-explosive shells onto the empty, shattered tree line where the drone teams had been standing 10 minutes prior, destroying nothing but dirt and splinters. Their artillery fire missions required multiple layers of authorization, passing from frontline scouts to battalion commanders, and finally to battery officers, before a single high-explosive shell could be fired. Each step introduced friction into the system, small delays that compounded into a critical lag. This centralized response loop meant that even when their advanced electronic warfare systems instantly detected a threat, pinpointing drone operators within seconds, the actual kinetic retaliation was delayed by minutes. In modern combat, minutes are an eternity, an unbridgeable gap between detection and destruction. Conversely, the Ukrainian drone teams operated with absolute decentralization and lethal autonomy, functioning more like a distributed network than a traditional unit. They did not need a general to approve a strike. The operators in the dirt possessed the authority to identify, track, and destroy high-value targets in real time, compressing the kill chain into a seamless, continuous action. The Russian artillery was still pounding the empty, rain-soaked earth where the Ukrainians had been standing, strictly following a grid-based bombardment protocol rooted in static warfare assumptions, while the actual perpetrators were already kilometers away, uploading the strike footage to their encrypted networks, effectively turning the battlefield into both a combat zone and a real-time intelligence and propaganda pipeline. This brief, violent encounter in the mud of eastern Ukraine illustrates a fundamental and terrifying shift in the landscape of modern warfare, one that challenges decades of assumptions about power, protection, and dominance. The battlefield has evolved into an environment where absolute visibility immediately translates to absolute vulnerability, where being seen, even for a moment, is often synonymous with being targeted and destroyed. For decades, military dominance was defined by the deployment of massive, heavily armored platforms that projected power through sheer size, firepower, and technological superiority. Tanks, armored vehicles, and mechanized columns were designed to break through lines and hold ground, operating under the assumption that their armor and supporting systems could absorb or deflect most threats. Today, that assumption has collapsed. Putting a multi-million-dollar asset on a contested battlefield without a flawless, impenetrable anti-drone umbrella is essentially painting a target on it for anyone with a $500 quadcopter and a rudimentary understanding of geometry, trajectory, and weak points. The heavy armor that once defined terrestrial supremacy is now routinely hunted and dismantled by expendable, commercial-grade technology, operated by soldiers looking at tablet screens, far removed from the physical danger of the target itself. The fundamental mathematics of warfare have been permanently rewritten. A superpower can no longer simply buy its way to victory by fielding the most expensive tanks or the most sophisticated vehicles, because their adversaries have figured out how to render those formidable fortresses obsolete using mass-produced plastic, open-source software, and duct-taped explosives. When the torrential rain finally returned to cover the smoldering wreckage of the Russian column, it washed over more than just burning steel. It washed over the remains of an antiquated military doctrine that had failed to adapt to a rapidly changing reality. The era of the invincible armored spearhead had officially sunk into the mud, replaced by a terrifying new reality where the sky is filled with cheap, buzzing predators that can appear without warning and disappear just as quickly. The implications of this shift extend far beyond a single destroyed convoy. They signal a collapse in the traditional relationship between cost, protection, and survivability on the battlefield, undermining decades of procurement strategies and defense planning. For years, military planners operated under the assumption that increased investment in armor, countermeasures, and layered defensive systems would proportionally increase a platform's resilience and battlefield longevity. That equation no longer holds in an era where threats are cheap, abundant, and difficult to detect until the final moments. In such an environment, traditional measures of strength, armor thickness, caliber size, and platform cost lose their relevance, replaced by metrics of adaptability, redundancy, and speed.